Imagine you're talking to the creator of the universe about the person that you want to become. And the creator replies, then I will make you work harder and longer, and nothing will come easy to you. Okay, well, I want to be wise. And so the creator says, then I will give you failures that will crush your spirit. That way you can learn the value of judgment. Then you say, that sounds like a hard life. Can you give me a good life? And the creator replies, just like we measure the quality of a blacksmith by the strength of his steel, I measure you by what you are at the end, not the fire and the hammer that it took to make you. A good life isn't an easy life. A good life makes you into a good person. And that, my child, is a hard life. It's about who we become doing the work more than the outcome from the work itself. And I love this, and this is a reframing of Proverbs, but the work works on you more than you work on it. Like in all labor there is profit. Meaning we always benefit from work, even if the thing that we work on gets destroyed, even if you went bankrupt, even if that relationship didn't work out, even if that partnership falls apart. The work you did is eternal because it changes you. This is all to say that no matter where you're at in your journey, you've just got to believe with all your fucking heart that you're going to make it, because no one else is going to believe for you. Because you can never expect someone to invest in you more than you invest in yourself. And the crazy thing is, some people say they'd kill for a shot or they'd die for a chance, when in reality, they won't even wake up 60 minutes earlier for it.
Whenever I it gets really hard, and I just think to myself, why am I even bothering? Why should I even keep doing this? I just remind myself that this is where most people stop, and this is why they don't win. And so that's a quote that has helped me get through some of those really tough times. It's well, do I want to win more than I want to fail? Yes. It's well, then this is a Trevor quote, who's my editor and my closest friend. He said, well, whenever someone says they can't stand it anymore, he said, well, if you're alive, you have proof that you can stand it. And if you die, you won't have to stand it anymore. So you can always stand it. And I think that's a really powerful message. It's really simple. But if you are going through it, then you are going through it. You may be uncomfortable, it may be painful, you may hate it, but you're still here.
The amount of times when I was on my lonely path, where I was too different from the friends that I had, but not successful enough to be friends with the people that I wanted to be friends with, that's when you want people to root for you. That's when you want people to support you. Once you've already won, people are like, he's amazing, he's so good. But that's the time when you need it the least. And so you always have to be the person who roots for you before everyone else does. And it's usually a single clap in the auditorium for a very long period of time. It is a slow clap that's just you rooting for you. And that visual, I think, is one that you can kind of take, because it is. People struggle to do things alone. And the path of the exceptional person is one of an exception, which means that you are not with other people. And rather than fighting that or bemoaning it, see it as an indicator that you're on the right path. Because if everyone else were cheering you on, then it means you're not in the right place, because it means you're just like everyone else, and that's not where you want to be.
Sometimes you have to give yourself a little bit of grace, because in some seasons of life, maintaining is winning. Just not losing ground is the W. You're not having a bad year. You had a few bad days that you're thinking about for the rest of the year. What you believe is gonna be your live it up in your 20s, your 40-year-old self doesn't value any of that. But your 40-year-old self absolutely will value the skills that you acquired in your 20s, because the skills will stay with you and will compound with time. But I wanna be clear, I don't say you should or shouldn't do anything. You can do whatever you want. This is just one man's 2 cents if you're dissatisfied with your current. But I remember there was this moment when I had 6 gyms and I knew what I was going to do to get to 10 locations. I ended up flipping the model and doing something else. But when I realized what it would take to go from 6 to 10, I remember I made this video where I publicly basically was just like, hey, I'm working a lot right now. And I was working basically 6/12s. And I still kind of took Sundays. And I used to watch the Ravens. And I looked at what little time I had left in my week. And I was like, well, am I willing to give up the Ravens, which is a football team for those of you guys who aren't in the US, and, fantasy and, Netflix series that I watch? Am I willing to give up that to get to 10 locations? And I was like, yeah, I'm willing to give that up for 10 locations. And so I made the trade.
some of you aren't willing to give up rec dodgeball or, beers with the boys. And I don't think, if you're not, great, just make sure that you're doing it for the trade-off that you know you're actively making, right? If you're doing it by default, right? If you're watching your TV series and you really are like, no, I would prefer to have this TV series than my goal, then dude, more power to you. The thing is that most people make unconscious trades. The reason so few people understand success is consistency never looks impressive in the moment, only at the end. And so people only root for people who don't need it once you've already won. People are like, he's amazing, he's so good, but that's the last time you need it, the least. And so you always have to be the person who roots for you before everyone else does. And people struggle to do things alone because if everyone else were cheering you on, then it means that you're not in the right place. It means that you're just like everyone else, and that's not where you want to be.
Whenever I'm complaining about something, one of the common things he'll ask me back is well, who do you want to be? And I'll be like, well, I want to be like this. And he's like, do you think that person would not go through hard times? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, it sounds like you're wishing for the outcome, but not willing to pay the price. He's like, are you willing to pay the price? And I'm like, well, yeah. He's like, well, this is what paying the price feels like. Embrace it. Because these will be the stories you tell.
Girlfriend breaks up with you. Okay, then you go into work and you sulk because you're distracted, and then you don't do the same level of effort and you're not enthusiastic. And then all of a sudden your work suffers and you get put on a PIP or you get fired. And then now you're fired and you don't have a girlfriend, and then you start gaining weight and you stop going to the gym. And all of a sudden you're like, man, bad things happen in threes. It's like, no, bad things happen all the time, and they only become interrelated if you let it affect your behavior. And so I think the equal opposite of that is thinking, okay, this bad thing occurred. What can I do to decrease the likelihood something else bad occurs in the meantime? And then boiling everything down to activities or the actions that I have to take. And I think about that actually a lot, which is how, if you think about from the power perspective of, okay, something bad happens, how much would it affect my behavior? Well, the person who's indestructible would have something terrible happen and then nothing would change. And I love that.
Or they'd get better.
Exactly, yeah.
And you've seen these people. He lost his job, he gained weight, and man, he's just never been the same. Pull your head out of your ass.
I didn't know if I was going to win, but I did know I wasn't going to stop. And that was the only thing that I felt okay committing to. Because when we talk about fuel, it was when it got back down to it, the wall that my back was against was going home, a failure. And to me, I would have rather died. And so that was it. So I love this quote, which is, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you have no choice. And so and this is a really visceral example, but I'm going to use it for the sake of being visceral. Slavery has happened for thousands of years. We think about it in America with our American slavery, but slavery has existed everywhere, right? Thousands of years. Slaves work all day, every day. And the idea of being a slave right now for many people who are free is incomprehensible, right? And so I remember, as twisted as this is, maybe I started thinking this when I was younger, is that I would be in this gym alone, not having slept for a long time, doing all the jobs, and being like, this is horrible. And then I would think, well, being a slave and being whipped every single day and not being compensated and having sunburned everything with everything chapped and peeling constantly. And the only respite that I would have would be a meal at the end of the day, and then eventually maybe a day off once a month, and then eventually have the good grace of dying. And yet those slaves continued to work. And I was like, how are they able to do that? They would do it because they had no choice. The choice was death or work. So they worked. And so when I thought about it like that within the context of the gym, I was like, for me, I wasn't in an extreme scenario like that. But it felt that way. Because to me, the idea of going home a failure might as well have been death.
we live inside of prisons of our own making based on our belief system. And so if you want to change your life, you have to change your belief system. Belief system is just a different way of saying things that you know or believe to be true. These are just the facts that you live on. Now, the thing is we can't double check every single thing that we believe because we can't. It would take too long, right? As a human being, every single thing you had to fact check. So the vast majority of the things that we believe and take as true were just given to us by other people. It's what I find very interesting about this is that we are so hesitant to question our beliefs when in reality, almost none of our beliefs are our own. They're not yours. They're someone else's.
There was a guy, friend of a friend, successful entrepreneur, and he got really bad cancer, like super bad, really, really fast, right? And I think he lost his like trachea and some other stuff, and like they thought he was going to die. He ended up making it, and he was telling my friend, he was like, "Man, so grateful." And it was like, you'd think it was like the whole I see life a different way now. It wasn't that. It was while he was going through it. And his reasoning was, how cool is it that I get to live this part of the human experience? He's like, so many people don't get to live this. Like, I get to know what it's like to have cancer. Like, so many people live their whole lives and then die not knowing what cancer was like. I get to know that. And I just thought about that. It's like a very interesting frame. It's like whether it's bankruptcy, going to jail, like even the depths of human suffering. And some people who are still going through that trauma, I'm not saying that like, I'm not justifying it. It's just a frame on like being human is the rainy and the sunny days. Like you can't skip weather. And so I think like embracing the totality of the experience can give you gratitude for what feels locally like a low point. But most of the defining moments in our life, broken leg, then he doesn't have to go to war, right? When you expand the time horizon, those are the things that create us.
I lost everything 5 years into my entrepreneurial journey. And then I made a little bit more, and then I lost it all again. But the thing is that I had this idea that, oh, I have to start from scratch again. But that's not true, because you can only start from scratch once. Every time after that, you start with an experience. A man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man with an opinion. And you transition from the second to the first, the moment you begin working. Because you're no longer somebody who has an opinion. And as soon as you know what that truth is, because you've been there and you've actually done it, and you have the scars to show for it, then their opinions matter significantly less.
I think it's just giving yourself permission to suck. It's giving yourself permission to be unhappy. It's giving yourself permission to not achieve while you do for a long period of time. It's giving yourself permission to lose friends. It's giving yourself permission to do things that's different than people in your social circle or your age group are doing. It's giving you permission, giving yourself permission to be an exception so that you can become exceptional. And a lot of that, the whole positive poly mantra of like, I saw a post a girl made and she was like, "You are worthy." And that's what made that tweet. All my tweets are just responses to shit I see. And so this girl was like, I say this to myself in the morning, like, "You are worthy, you are amazing, you are a goddess." And I was like, "You're not a goddess because you don't control me. And you don't have the things that you want. You keep thinking that you saying that you're worthy is going to somehow make it true. But like the way that you know you're worthy is that you have it. That's it. Like that is the litmus test. Are you worthy of $1 billion? Well, are you a billionaire? No, then you're not worthy. And so just like, I think we have these things, it's just like you're unbalanced. It's like, you're not worthy. There's these things that we're programmed to say, oh, that's bad. You have to tell everyone they're worthy. Everyone's beautiful. No, if everyone are beautiful, then no one's beautiful. And yet again, we're back at square one. And so it's I guess, drinking the tonic. It's going through the shit, which is honestly the boring stuff that no one wants to do for an extended period of time. And accepting that you suck and that it is okay, because the first step is accepting that you suck so that you can do the second step, which is doing something about it. I think that most of us can look back on our lives to 10 years ago and think about the problems that we were dealing with then and think about how much of a pittance and how small those problems.
Let that be the greatest evidence of all. Bad things do not come in threes. Bad things occur. People do not know how to cope. They allow one bad thing to snowball into more bad things. And bad stuff sucks. And the only thing worse than letting one bad thing be a bad thing is to let one bad thing ruin many good things. If you think about a bad thing as a cancer, it's like, well, we want to isolate that cancer as fast as possible and not let that cancer of you losing your job affect your marriage, and then let you affecting your marriage affect how you're, a parent, and let how you're a parent affect how you are going to pursue this new endeavor. People just basically give themselves an excuse for misbehaving. I had a bad day, therefore I now have a legitimate excuse for being a bad husband or not being nice to my wife. They use it as an excuse to not exercise self-control.
You accept outcomes and you accept circumstances. You accept the fact that you were dealt whatever hand you were dealt. You accept that you're 5'8". You accept that you're black. You accept that you're a woman. That's accepting. You trying to rebel against that is you trying to fight the universe, and the universe is going to win every time. But in terms of you framing acceptance as saying that I am comfortable with who I am and I cannot be better and I must be satisfied with that, is the biggest embodiment of failure that I can imagine. Is that it's almost egotistical to say that there's a difference between saying I am good enough and I am good. So you could say I am good enough for my current state based on the work that I've put into it, but I could be better. And so you can accept that the work that you have done has created the outcome that you've created, but you do not need to accept that the outcome that you've created is the end all be all and the last outcome that you need to have. And so for me, the only version of acceptance that I have is that I accept that the version of myself that I want to be is so far from who I am, that I have this massive discrepancy that I have to overcome. And then just breaking that down one step at a time and thinking, I don't deserve to be that man, but I can still do the things that can create it. And that also means that I have to go through the circumstances that would create that man, which means that if I have unbelievable big dreams and big goals, then I have to go through hard times. It's like hate. The hard times are a requisite for success. And so if you're going through hard times right now, it means that you're on the path to success. And it's not that you're on the wrong path. It's the feeling of being on the right path. It won't get harder. This is the hardest part. And so if you can just make it through this, everything else is downhill. It's not that the things that the dragons are going to slay aren't going to get bigger. They are. But you become so much more equipped to slay them back. And you have so many more allies. You have people in the stands cheering for you. You have the audience. You have all of these other things that are behind you. But in the beginning, it's just you with a stick against a bear. And arguably that fight is a harder fight to win than beating a dragon when you have a nuclear bomb and 6 nations behind you. And so it's not even like the size of the hardship, it's just also the resources and how few of them you have, and how so much of the beginning is literally burning the one thing you have, which is time. Because you have no leverage. You don't have the money to pay other people to help you. You don't have the resources to go get someone no one can learn it for you. It's there's a lot of the things that we care about a lot. No one can work out for you. It doesn't matter how much money you have. No one can learn skills for you. And so in the early days, it feels so painful because you look around to see who can help you, and then you're like, fuck, it's me again. And I think getting comfortable with the idea that each of these things, kind of like Slumdog Millionaire, if you've seen that movie where I'll give you the TLDR. He goes through his entire life of randomness, and he gets on a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire version in India. And it has 12 questions to make $1 million. And from only 12 random experiences in his life that seemed meaningless at the time, was he able to answer all of the questions and then ultimately win. The skills that you develop along the way, like Steve Jobs learning calligraphy that then became Apple fonts that, transformed how we type. Those early days, that little trench winning in the weeds, oftentimes gives you these huge advantages later on because you have more context than anyone else. And so rather than lament them and hate the fact that you're going through it, remembering that these will be arrows that you put in the quiver that you're going to be using to slay the future bigger dragons. And so expecting it to be easy is what makes it much harder than it ever is.
I had a mentor way back when I was starting my gyms, and he was like, yeah, we do flyers. That's how we get customers. So I was like, okay, so I'll do some of those. He said, you should try that. So, print out 300 flyers, and, advertising was expensive and I was broke. And so 300 was the appropriate amount of advertising that I could stomach. And so we put out 300 flyers and I waited. And then the next day I got a call. I was really excited. And as soon as I pick up the phone, I was like, oh, hey. And it's like, I got one of your flyers. I was so excited. And he says, yeah, you dinged my Mercedes. And I just immediately panicked and hung up the phone. I didn't even say anything. Thankfully, he never called back, but that was the only call I got from my 300 flyers. And so I called the mentor back and I was like, hey, you told me to do, think, a decade plus ago, and way more entitlement. I was like, hey, you told me this was going to work, right? And he didn't even respond to that. He was like, well, how many did you put out for your test size? And I was like, what do you mean by test size? He's like, well, what was the first batch that you tested on so that you could then scale it? And I was like, well, I put out 300 in total. And he just started laughing. And I was like, why are you? I'm having this very serious moment. You know what I mean? I was like, what are you laughing at? He's like, hard to know if anything works with 300. He's like, well, we test with 5,000. He's like, and then if we get 0.5% back, he's like, then we're okay. 1%, I'm scaling to the moon. 1.5%, he's like, I'm singing praises. He's like, if you had 0.5% on that, he's like, you'd get 1.5 people. He's like, and that's tough to see with 300. Can't really know if anything's working. And I remember thinking that moment, like, I might have been doing the right thing, but I was not doing nearly enough of it. And I think that there's a lot of early on, and like, I think that story can apply to a lot of things, to early entrepreneurship. It's like, we can get disheartened by our first month of making content that we haven't made money yet from it. But it's like, not that you're doing the wrong thing. You just might not have been doing it either long enough or enough of it, which time is really just also a proxy for doing enough of it.
Every worthwhile goal is worthwhile because it has a cost associated with it. And so the cost that you're going through is what makes the goal worthwhile to begin with. Because if what we're setting out to do were immediately available to you, then it would mean it would be immediately available to everyone, which means it wouldn't be worthwhile. So the very fact that it's difficult is why it is worth doing. And so, like, we can't resent the price tag of the shoes that we want to buy. We just have to make the decision of whether or not we want to pay it.
Have to grit through that period where you don't know what you're doing. And this took me so long to understand. Like, the not knowing part is the part that's hard, and that is where people give up. It's not usually the like, oh, I just need to work harder. Sure, there's some people who are weak and they just lose there. But most of the time when I talk to business owners, that's not actually where they lose. It's because they don't know what to do. And so they think, oh, I'll change my strategy, rather than figuring out what to do is the strategy. And so most strategies do work. So I want to hit on this a little harder. One of the misconceptions about business is that there's this one secret thing, right? There's usually lots of ways to win. But the thing is that it was a path, and I knew that me getting off of it literally meant that I had to forsake basically all the friends that I had locally in Baltimore, because I came back home. Second, because all the guys that I knew who followed the same path, me stepping off that path is almost me, it's like unspoken talking about the path that they're still following. And I think that's the really nasty one, is that if you start doing something different than everyone else is doing, they assume that you're attacking them for living their lives out. I don't know why people do this, but they do it. And so a lot of ways they want you to fail because they want confirmation that the path that they're on is the right path. And they want you to fail with the risk that you choose to take because it confirms the fact that they shouldn't take the risk that they weren't willing to take. And so don't be upset when people have these snide remarks. It's because they're actually protecting their own egos. It took me a lot longer to figure that out. And so just reminding myself that, like, hey, I've been able to boil down almost all criticism from other people in my life to this statement. So please listen to it carefully. You do not live in a way that I would prefer. That's all it is. Every single remark, why are you doing this, blah, blah, blah. It just comes down to you live your life in a way that I wouldn't prefer. And the answer to that is, of course not, because it's my life. You should live your life in the way that you prefer. Why should I live my life in the way that you prefer? That makes no sense. But as soon as I got that translation, that reframe, it somehow just like, it was like the volume of the world turned down for me. Oh, okay. Why aren't you going to be at this guy's, the fantasy football thing? Why aren't you go to this destination? When I was like, dude, I'm trying to save money. I can't afford that in time. I can't afford that with money.
But when I was poor, I was pretty happy. I was okay with being poor. And now that I am rich, I'll put quotes on that, it's about the same. And so then it just goes down to, well, then the richness had nothing to do with the level of contentedness, which means that my wants in past and present and future all go into the bucket of irrelevant in terms of their ability to affect my perception of reality in the present. And so in thinking about that, it makes my wants have less stake today. And so a lot of anxiety that I think a lot of people have is around things that haven't happened yet, either good or bad. Like, I hope this speech goes well, or I hope I get this job promotion. But the reality is that once you get the job promotion, you wanted it, you resettle. And the negative version of this is, and you've probably seen this stuff, but when handicapped people get handicapped, so they have a terrible accident, they get paralyzed or they lose a leg or whatever, there's a dip in their subjective well-being, but after 3 to 6 months, it typically restabilizes, which means that if I didn't get paralyzed, or even if I did get paralyzed, I'd be just about as content as I am right now. It's like, whatever is about to happen is probably not as bad as that. And so that's the worst case scenario, which is nothing. So, okay.
Good things aren't as good as you think they are. Bad things aren't as bad as you think they are.
Yeah, life is life.
It's not about the resources you have. It's about how resourceful you're willing to be. Right now, getting started is 100% under your control. And I love taking this frame, which is that every self-made billionaire is self-made. Now, if you're like, wait, there are billionaires who aren't self-made. Right, that's why I didn't say all billionaires. Every self-made billionaire is self-made. And every self-made millionaire is self-made. And here's the one people hate. Every self-made person in poverty is self-made. Now, that may make you feel uncomfortable. And you know what? You may be right. You probably did have more disadvantages. You probably did have things that worked against you. And now what? You're right. So that's it then for you. The rest of your life will never go the way you want it to go. The harsh truth here is, if you want to feel better, blame others. If you want to get better, blame yourself. If you've ever been so drunk that you're throwing up and you think to yourself, man, I'm probably not going to remember this. The good news is that once you do succeed, that terrible period of vomiting or whatever the difficulty is that you're going through, it'll actually compress in your mind. And so as difficult as it may seem in the moment, it actually doesn't stay with you. All you'll have left is the thing you accomplished. You won't remember the work that it took to get there. There'll be a significant discount on the punishment you endured. I tend to have a bad habit of really not looking back very much. And so I occasionally will go through my photos and I am reminded about all of the mistakes and the detours that I took along the way to where I wanted to go.
Nothing great was ever achieved by people who tried to be great at all things. And so I was like, okay, I'm just not gonna, I might not have a great relationship for a long period of time. I mean, there was like, a lot of people don't know this, but in the early days of our relationship, even when we were married, I told Leia, so the first 3 years, I said the business comes before our marriage. So a lot of people don't know that. And I was like, well, to me, it made sense. It was like, most people break up over money. The business makes money. So the business feeds us and then we will be okay. That was kind of my thinking around it. And we eventually flipped that and said, like, if we're good, the business will be fine. But it took 3 years to get there. But all that to say, like, I think having periods of imbalance, and maybe, to be fair, if I hadn't had that priority at that time, maybe Gym Launch wouldn't have been what it became. And so I can't look back and say, like, I should have done it different, because it's really easy to say that now. But like, I might not be here to say that if I had been that way.
One of the easiest ways to have more money is to work more hours. And you're like, how is that possible? Well, when you work more hours, it actually kills two birds. One is that you actually make more money when you work more hours. But on top of that, you don't spend money because you have less time to spend it. And so every hour of work is a net positive in two directions. So it saves you money you're not spending and makes you money. And so you want to find those little twists that you can make in your investments of time and money that are outsized. It's not just that you gain, you also stop the loss. I've always been willing to bet big on me. And so a lot of you guys are trying to like bet big on Dogecoin or some meme thing or like some get rich quick. And I promise you, the guys who have all the money know how to do it better than you. And if you have your last $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 that you're like, what do I do with it? Bet on you, because you'll never sell you. You're a long-term hold, right? And so if you get better, you guarantee the win. And every investment you make compounds. You guarantee compounding because every skill stacks on top of other skills.
One of the things for people who are not where they want to be is that they have pain, like oodles of pain. And I remember when I was starting out, I was looking for passion. I was looking for purpose. I was like, I just want to find something that I'm motivated by. But it's the cat and the cheese. It's like we're looking for cheese, but we have all these cat behind us, and all we have to do is look and remember that they're behind us and chasing us. And so if you have the cat and you're staying in your current situation, you're being used by the cat. right? You're being used by the business owner who, it doesn't treat you well and is, and you're in this job that you don't really want to be in, right? Or you're being used by